Hi, I'm Martin Piero.
I'm Alex Dunlop.
And
I'm Madison Piero.
all right, so let's do this. We are here together again, trying this whole live streamy video conference review thing out again, and we're going to talk about the most amazing thing that's ever happened to streaming services and the Star Wars universe since. Anyways, it's Star Wars: The Acolyte. So I guess we decided I'm going to do a real quick recap of the show. The show opens up with Carrie-Anne Moss's character. She's in a bar on some planet. A mysterious person comes in. They have a little fight. This mysterious person kills her with a knife to the heart, which Alex has plenty to say about that. And then the bartender witnesses this as the assassin's face is revealed to be that of former Jedi Padawan Osha, who's arrested by the Jedi, but she escapes, and then they go out to find her again, and in the process, it's revealed that she has a twin sister, who is in fact the one that killed the Jedi Master. Osa has escaped the Jedi, but then is captured again by the end of the episode, but they now believe she's a good person, and discount Kylo Ren is revealed. All right, so is that about it?
Pretty much.
All right, so I think we all have differing opinions on it, some similar, some different. Again, like I said, the show opens up. They're clearly shooting on the volume, and our mysterious assassin goes into the bar to go kill one particular Jedi. Alex, I know you loved the choreography in that.
Yes, I really love really slow fight scenes. I guess they took her from the Matrix and said, you do really good at slow fights, so we're going to go with that. It just felt really slow and clumsy, and the dialogue was, again, dialogue's huge for me. It's the biggest thing. So when it's ridiculous, it takes me out extremely fast. So when she sits there, she's like, fight me and come at me with everything you have. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's what we're doing. We're talking to children. Okay. After countless TV shows that Disney put out of lightsabers stabbing people through the chest and the like, and they walk it off. A 2-inch blade to the chest is apparently lethal. So maybe the Mandalorians were right in using swords and guns instead of blasters and lightsabers.
This is pre-Bacta, I assume, so maybe a lightsaber wound is more deadly in the past than in the future. Well,
no, it was very interesting how she got. I'm assuming it was in the heart where the blade landed, and then she just kind of flopped to the floor, and they're like, "Oh, she's dead." When it wasn't like very interesting. But I didn't absolutely hate it. I thought it was interesting.
I didn't hate it.
That's the best review we're going to get today. I didn't hate
it. To your point about it not feeling like the past, it definitely felt like Star Wars. I mean, it definitely had that Star Wars vibe. Yeah. But I agree with you. This easily could have been set during the Mandalorian time too. There's no, except for the Jedi, but there's no clear delineation of anything outside of the one shot on Coruscant where they show the Jedi Temple kind of looking newer and more pristine. There's no way to visually tell what period in the Star Wars universe is taking place.
To be fair, that's always been an issue with Star Wars. I mean, Lucas did his best to change like how the ship designs look. The only hint you had as to what time period it was, like in the prequels, they looked nicer, and then you can see the evolution of, for example, the clone fighter into the TIE fighter, the V-wing into the TIE fighter, or the ARC 170 into the X-wing. But yeah, that's an issue Star Wars has always had. They've always had lightsabers, blasters, and ships that go faster than light travel.
I don't know if you remember reading the old original Tales of the Jedi comic, where they had backpacks that had to power the lightsaber. I thought they should have done that, but
I think that would take too many of the younger fans out. But yeah, you gotta give them some slack. Disney is a tiny indie company. They can't afford to use new sound effects. Come up with new ideas. What's that?
They don't come up with new ideas. Like you said, they didn't create Star Wars; they just bought it. But not to get too outside of the lore of the show, but the show creator, Lindsay whatever her name is, she's on record saying that this show is for people that don't know anything about Star Wars. You don't have to. So if they're not doing it for the fans, and why the fan service? I mean, but she also recently said that R2-D2 is a lesbian. So
that's true. C-3PO is gay, and R2 is a lesbian, despite the fact that they're robots and don't engage in those things.
and both sort of have been identified as male, but whatever.
Yeah.
Sorry, Maddie, we didn't tell you that in advance. Yeah, that did happen.
Yeah, and honestly, the comments from the director and the main actors, is probably skewing my opinion of the show, and I'm be upfront about that 100%. That's why I'm so hard on it. But another issue I had with the whole fight scene leading to their arrest, they're doing this on an eyewitness account of an alien.
That's one of the things I'm getting at. Yeah, it's true. I know. And again, they're just doing this basic police detective work.
My issue is it seems lazy because they could have done something like maybe she got hurt. Maybe a Jedi Master managed to actually hurt the other person. They got DNA evidence or something, which would be in their system because that's how they count midichlorians or whatever, and they would have a record of that. But no, an alien goes, so a human female with braids came into my bar and killed a Jedi, and the Jedi made it like, I know exactly who that is, actually. Among the thousands of systems and the tens of thousands of planets, I know that exact person you're talking about. It's like,
gotcha. I mean, I don't want, and this isn't probably the time to hypothesize about what's going on, but she made a point of making sure that the guy saw her face. And then, so it makes me wonder if this Jedi is not really dead, because they hired Carrie-Anne Moss from The Matrix, and they only used her in 8 minutes of the show. I mean, really? 8 minutes? So then they cut to the actual because that's turns out to be later revealed that's May, the twin sister, and Osa is working for the Trade Federation, which I thought was cool to see the Trade Federation again. From episode 1.
Yeah, no, it was cool because they were considered a major player before episode 1, so it makes sense that they would be a major player before episode 1, which is where the story takes place. I also really liked, I know I'm going to hate on the show a lot more later, but I really liked the ship design, and I liked that it looked very similar to the ships from episode 1. I liked it. It's like, you can tell it's going to evolve, what it's going to evolve into, so I did like the ship designs.
Well, there was that moment where Osha had to go outside and fix the ship shields. Yes, I know. But I thought, oh, okay, that makes sense. They don't have the proper droids to be able to do the outside of the ship because it's 100 years earlier. That makes sense to me. And then it turns out, no, that's illegal. And they're actually supposed to use droids. And I don't understand why they would have her doing that in the first place. It's the Trade Federation. They have droids on the ship. We saw them around the ship. So I don't know why they're just having her do it. And it just didn't really make a lot of sense. And of course, there's fire in space.
Well, again, I try to justify the fire. Like if it's an oxygen line leak, then you would have fire right at that scene as that area of space fills with oxygen before it dissipates. We've seen fire in Star Wars.
Well, no, we've seen explosions in Star Wars, and then they dissipate.
Now, again, the argument could be it's oxygen leaking from the ship. Like when the Star Destroyer crashes into the second Death Star, you do see the fire billowing
again,
out.
as all the oxygen's currently being expelled. However, I would argue that if that's going to happen, if it was an oxygen line, the fire should have gone down the line and caused significantly more damage deeper inside the ship somewhere.
But then I go, are we nitpicking? Is this a nitpicking thing, or are we just giving an overall? I feel like we're nitpicking. Oh, okay.
No.
I know. We all looked at each other when it happened, like, what? Fire in space? I'm sure, Alex, you did too, but
I think my roommate and I laughed is what happened. We just kind of bust out laughing, and we realized what kind of show it was going to be at that point. It's not that like this is not the end all be all. It's not like, oh my god, the episode was perfect, but there was fire in space, so I'm going to like it now. It's showing what kind of quality and thought they put into this show ahead of time, and that was abundantly clear throughout the episode where I'm like, oh, you just wanted things to happen, because the whole point of that scene was to show, oh, she has a trauma with fire because she stopped herself and you heard the screams in her head. You're like, oh, that was actually really good, or not really good, but it was decent, foreshadowing and showing her past. And then immediately 2 minutes later, in case you missed it, they're going to explain why she has trauma with fire. And it's like, oh, well, just in case you missed the fire trauma scene, we're going to lay it out for you. And again, I don't like being talked down to, and I don't like poor dialogue. And this episode was filled with both.
Yes, and the fact remains is when the guy's giving the exposition to her, the Jedi, what's his name? No, Yord. When Yord's talking to her about it, she's like, well, you already know this. So why was he saying it out loud?
Do you want some exposition?
Because she's like, your family died, your mothers both died in the fire. She goes, well, you already know this. But so it's like,
No, she said that her mothers died.
no, he said
it wasn't yours.
whichever. But he was relaying this story to her, and she's like, but you already knew that when I applied for the Jedi. You knew all this. So there was really no.
Why was May in none of the records? Later on in the episode, they say that May is not mentioned in any of the records. Why is that? I feel like that'd be an important part to list in any of her files, because that would be a concern. I feel.
Well, I mean, if you want to jump ahead into that, it's like, and you said it when we were watching it, Maddie. That was their one twist and surprise, that it was twins, and they already told us. They told us in the first episode. So it was like, I mean, that could have been a great mystery that builds up. Like, how could she have done this? Did she leave the ship? Like, they could have actually set up the mystery that maybe she was missing from the logs when the Jedi was killed. Like, oh, maybe it was her. You know?
And they hinted at that, because that other coworker she had was like, "Hey, what are you going to do tonight?" And she's like, "What I always do." And they go, "Oh, just sit in your room by yourself." So she wouldn't have had an eyewitness to be like, "Oh no, she was with us."
She could have hopped the shuttle, done it, and came back. Yeah.
See, at first, I thought when the show started, oh, this is going to be like a bounty hunter story. Great. I love that. We're going into this character. Why is she hunting the Jedi? Why is she making these choices? Maybe she'll have a character arc, a redemption arc. And then I'm like, okay, never mind. She's trying to prove herself wrong, like that episode in the Clone Wars with Ahsoka where she was accused of crimes, and then she goes on this mission to try to prove her innocence. I thought that's what we were getting, but no, because they destroyed all the character growth they could have done with this character in one episode. So what else can they do with the next, 8 episodes? There's nothing more.
Right. Well, no, obviously there's more twists in their brains or their minds coming. I will say,
yes, their minds are definitely twisted. Yes.
So then we're introduced to the Jedi, and we're introduced to Asparagus Face, and I'm sorry, what was her name?
Master Rowe.
Master Rowe. Okay, Rowe. Master Rowe. Yeah, she's not a good actress. I mean, I don't know what what performance she was going for. It was like a piece of wood. And then we're introduced to Master Soul. Soul. What do we think? What do we think of Soul and his teachings with the kids and all that? You know, that was it was a nice little it felt like, prequel era Star Wars.
I like that moment. I thought it was good.
I mean, yeah, that was cool. Just real jump back at one scene when they went to arrest her at the ship.
Okay, all right.
This person's accused of killing a Jedi Master. We're going to send her friend, who is just promoted to Jedi Knight, with his brand new Padawan to arrest her. It's like, that doesn't seem like a good idea. When they thought the Chancellor was a Sith, they sent 4 Jedi Masters.
Right.
And they're like, this person killed Jedi Master. Yeah, send the scrub. That's fine.
Right. True, that's a valid point.
They did establish that they were trying to keep this under the rug, being very secretive about this and keep it out of the public light. So I think that might be why they chose someone who knew her, and so they could cover it up pretty easily, and didn't want to bring too much attention to it.
I just know losing 2 more Jedi to a Jedi killer would probably not be a lot harder to cover up. Yeah, but back to the whole soul training. That was cool. Obviously, I want more at the temple, honestly. Like, all we know is that Yoda trained everybody. That was pretty much all we knew about Jedi training. I do like seeing the Jedi Temple. That was kind of cool. And like you said, it was interesting to see it as a different. It did definitely look different, and I hope that was intentional, not just an oversight. But I'll give them benefit of the doubt.
Maddie, what did you think of seeing the Jedi again, but now supposedly in full Jedi activity? I guess.
I didn't hate it. Of course, I did not like Master Rowe. I felt like she was a 40-year-old Utah mom. That was what I was feeling. She did not feel like she's supposed to be older than Soul, and Soul feels more mature than she is. Maybe just because of her species aging rate, but I don't feel that she was like a grandmaster. I also was wondering about the Jedi Guard. We learned about that in Rebels. And we learned about that a bit in Clone Wars and how they were very important to the start of the
Yeah, shouldn't the guards have gone to go get her?
Where are they? Where are they?
Details.
Again, they probably didn't watch
exactly. When they say we're making a show for people who haven't watched Star Wars, it's because they haven't watched Star Wars.
Here's the thing that struck me, especially about Asparagus Lady. or the Utah mom. Her dialogue wasn't great, and her delivery was wooden. And we've seen that in the prequels. There seemed to be more depth, more naturalism to it in the prequels as opposed to in this. It felt very forced what she was saying. She talked to me like this, and then the guy who plays Master Soul, I was reading, he just learned how to speak English. Like he didn't know it a few months before.
He learned it for the show.
So then they cut to her ship's crashing.
No. There's stuff to say before her ship's crashing.
Well, then you take it, Alex. You and Maddie take run with this for a bit.
They arrest her, and at the time she's being arrested for killing a Jedi Master, and they're like, "We're gonna put you on a prison ship with a bunch of normal prisoners, with one robot guard, one." And then she's there for approximately 30 seconds before the prisoners go, "We're gonna escape. You want to come with us?" It's like, you can do that? You've been in this prison ship for how long? You're just now wanting to escape? Okay. And then she's like, "No, I'm good." All right. So then they remotely hack the droids flying the ship, which is interesting. Turns out R2-D2 didn't need to go plug into every single data port he found.
It's 100 years ago. Things were different.
You're right.
Years ago.
Better 100 years ago, I guess. I don't know. But and then she helps that one guy get out. They both take the escape pods. Then the ship starts going down, and she's like, "You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna double seat belt it up, and we're gonna be fine."
Well, the ship crashes, and they reveal that she has somehow broken free of her restraints and is laying on the floor.
Not even a limp. Yeah. She's fine.
She was clearly thrown like 10 feet from the chair.
The fact that she was able to walk away from a spaceship crashing, uncontrolled, tumbling.
A hugely graphical, flipping, rolling spaceship crashing, yes.
Yeah, is wild. Which may explain why she was asleep for so long, because the Jedi were able to go, pick up the prisoners, bring them back to Coruscant, interrogate them, also kind of rip the memory from their mind. That was an interesting trick that we never saw again. Get a task force together, fly to that planet, and land all before she woke up.
Well, in all fairness, she was awake when they were landing.
Oh, okay. My bad.
Yeah.
Apparently, hyperspace is just time travel now.
Again, it's just you put words on the script, and if nobody checks it, this is what you get. Yeah, so she gets thrown from the seat, has a vision where she sees her sister, which is when Maddie's like, it's twins.
Yeah. That could have been revealed later on. That could have been
or clones, but twins. They said twins.
Twins. and they did a weird de-aging thing that made them look different from each other for a little bit, which I thought was kind of bizarre. It took a minute for me to go, oh yeah, they are twins.
Yeah, they're supposed to be identical twins, so they're identical from birth. And so we look at them when they're younger, and they don't look identical. They look like.
I think we were seeing them at different ages as they were de-aging them. I don't know. It was all very vague. I thought for a minute they were doing a Yoda's magic tree or the magic cave from Luke's planet, whatever that was. But it wasn't what we got. It was just very cut and dry. There was no mystery. There was no mystery to the whole sequence. It was just like, here's my twin sister. Oh, her eyes turn black. She's bad.
And then Soul explains everything that happened in her past. Just sitting.
Yeah. Well, he also just kind of takes her word for it, where she's like, "It wasn't me." He's like, "No, your sister's dead. Trust me." He's like, "Well, it wasn't me. I believe you." Those are the two options. Either she did it or her sister did it. And you have the ability that you used 5 minutes ago to pull the memory from her mind. You could see it and be like, "Oh, she told the truth. We're good."
Or, I mean, there should be some kind of force test or something. I don't know. They reunite. He believes her. And then we're revealed to dollar store Darth Vader.
With one of the dumbest final quotes I've ever heard in my life. Like, it starts out fine. The Jedi live in a dream they believe everyone shares. If you attack a Jedi with a weapon, you'll fail. Steel or laser are no threat to them. Did you even read the script you wrote, where she just kills one with a knife, or did you watch episode 1 or 2 or 3 or 4?
Oh, no, they haven't
any other Star Wars content where people die all the time. It could have been so good, because they talk about how, like, you can't stab them. You got to be sneaky about it. You can't just. It was trying to say you can't just attack them outright. You need to be sneaky. You need to use an acolyte. You need to move around. But really, what it was is they were trying to fit the word acolyte into their final speech.
Right. So I could say the Acolyte, and that's how
Roll
it ends.
credits. Yeah. So it's like
Here's my thing. I can look at it like this is the first half of the first act. If it's 8 episodes, it's the first half of the, or 6 episodes. I mean, every episode it is. It's the first part of the first act of the story. However, my thing was the way they constructed it. It actually was a complete arc. I mean, they say they got her back at the end. I mean, they mission accomplished for the Jedi, and this little tag with Bobo Kylo was pointless.
cliffhanger for the sequel.
And who was she talking to? It was just like this disembodied voice as she's walking up the hill, and then he's still like 30 feet away from her. So is he talking to her? Is he just talking to himself?
To be fair, I'll be fair about this one. The Sith are known to be very dramatic.
Fair. It was very basic. It was very Gilmore Girls. Very like they walking on the guy without his shirt on. The girl go instead of going, she goes, "Put your shirt on." I have no feelings.
Well, they're Jedi.
Yeah, that
They would
happened.
never.
Yeah, but it was just so blah. It's like so, Maddie. So we've seen it now. The first episode of the Acolyte. We haven't seen the second. We don't know if everything's explained in that episode or if anything's better or different. So just this episode on its own, and think of all the other Star Wars content we've got when you think about it. What are your final thoughts and what rating 1 through, what are we doing, 1 through 10? 1 through 10 that you would give this episode. And we no points, no like 0.5.
Oh my
It's
God. Right.
whole numbers.
Overall, I think that there was a good potential for this story. It was there. They destroyed it in the first episode when just revealing everything right off the bat. It doesn't feel 100 years before. It feels a bit cheap. I don't feel invested with these characters enough because I didn't have time to grow with these characters. And it just is telling me now that Star Wars can't do live action things anymore. The best stuff that's come out of Star Wars is all the cartoons with Bad Batch, with the Clone Wars, which was supposed to be made for kids, is better than this.
And Rebels.
It's more thoughtful. It has better messages, and it really does bring in hard topics for kids to figure out. And this is just throw things on the paper and see if it sticks. It's not the absolute worst. It's good in the moment, and when you look back on it, it just keeps getting worse because you keep finding things that you just overlooked while watching it. So I would probably say that it's around like a 5 overall.
Alex, that's in retrospect after about 4 days after we watched it. So
yeah, so I'll agree with Maddie on the Clone Wars and Bad Batch. I will not agree with you on Rebels. I didn't like the way they handled Thrawn, but that's just a personal take. Objectively, I'd probably give this show a 4. My major gripe is again the dialogue, which personally insulted me in my intelligence, and I don't like the fact that the story happens because the main character shows up. What was so cool about Star Wars, the prequels, even in the originals, was that the world felt lived in. It was like things happened, and you're seeing the things that have happened. And now it's like things are only happening because the main character is here, and I don't know. It just didn't feel like a story. In my biases, I want to give it a 2. I still really don't like the way they talk down to me, and I don't like. But again, that's taking in the real world stuff, the director and the actress. So like, again, objectively, 4 out of 10.
I think a 4 is a good place to be because it gives it room for the next episode to be better or worse. So, because if you gave it a 2 now, that means if the next episode's worse, you're hitting the bottom rung already. So, I think a 4 is a fair one, a fair assessment. In my opinion is, again, I come from a time we talked about last time we did that I come from a time where there was no Star Wars. 16 years of no Star Wars. So, any Star Wars is good to me. I thought the touchstones to the prequel trilogy with the Nemoidians, the look and feel of everything was very Star Wars. So it earns points for that. That's not the people who are writing the show. It's people who are producing the show, who are working in the background. The guys that made Mandalorian look so good. The guys that made Rogue One and the sequel trilogy look good. That's who's working on this. So to that, I give them lots of credit for that. The music was great. It had a very Star Wars feel without leaning on Star Wars themes. The makeup was great. The characters looked good. There wasn't a gross amount of CGI. It was pretty weak written. I mean, like you say, Alex. But watching it, even though because we've been watching the new Doctor Who and not watching a lot of other current shows, love it. Watching the current shows, this is what it is. This is what entertainment is now. It's not for the thinking man. It's for the person that just wants to sit and be bludgeoned with entertainment. And that's what this was. It's like, things are happening. Look, things happening. Why are they happening? Don't think about it. Things are happening. And that's kind of what it was. So for that alone, I got to deduct points. I think ultimately, I want to lean toward Maddie, but I'm going to give it a 4 as well, Alex. I want to give it a 4 as well. Even though I liked it more than you did. But
I bet you're regretting that no 0.5 thing. You want to give it a 4.5 is what you want to give it.
No, here's why we don't do 0.5s. Because once you add the 0.5, then it's not a 10-point system. It's a 20-point system.
Oh, I
Once
agree.
you
I'm
add the-
just saying.
Yeah.
You want your rating to be between Maddie's and mine, and the only way to do that is a 4.5.
You know,
I know we're talking about how everything's getting a sequel and everything's doing it. It's all rehashes. I do want to say, Cobra Kai, pretty good. You need to check it out. It did a good job.
He's plugging another show. Why are you plugging another show?
Hang on, to bring it to this relevance is I don't want to be seen as the old fanboy who's like, oh, new thing on what I loved as a kid, I hate it automatically. It's like, no, this was done well. Doctor Who was done well, and then it wasn't. And Star Wars isn't being done well. I'm looking at the actual quality, not just, oh my God, you touched my childhood. I don't like it.
Be touching my childhood. There you know. Actually, it's my childhood too. So, I grew up with Star Wars.
Fair.
I was 5 when the. Hold on. I was 5 when the.
Choice, man.
Yeah, I was 5 when the original series came out, original trilogy. You were 5 when they put the trilogy back into the theaters and then did the prequels.
And then,
and then Maddie was about 5 when we showed her episode 1 and started her on her Star Wars path. So 5 years old is a good place to start with Star Wars. And it becomes part of your culture, part of your life. I mean, they do things like this where they're trying to squeeze it out of the culture it lives in. It's been living in for 40 years and putting it into a different culture. I mean, I don't begrudge anybody telling the kinds of stories they want to tell, but why are you doing it with Star Wars?
Yeah.
It's like just like bad guys bad, good guys good, pew pew pew, zoom zoom zoom. That's what we just take some of that, please. Please. Madison gives it a 5. Alice gives it a 4, and he wants to give it a 2, and I give it a 4. So that's where we sit. We're all going to watch the second episode, right, Alex? It's 30 minutes. It's 30 minutes.
It's 30 minutes of my life I could never get back.
I'm not forcing you to watch Doctor Who. So
I might rather watch Doctor Who.
No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. Nope. Trust me, Acolyte's better than what we've got with some of this Doctor Who. There's only been 2 good episodes so far.
But Star Wars is part of my life. Like right next to my bed, I have the Essential Guide to Droids. The Essential Guide to Vehicles, the Essential Atlas, and Star Wars Wildlife and Field Guide, because I'm doing a Star Wars D&D session and I'm trying to brush up all my knowledge. So Star Wars means more to me than Doctor Who does.
All right, let's wrap it up. Alex, we're going to watch episode 2, please. We'll just try. Maybe we can get to episode 3, because everybody says episode 3 destroys Star Wars. So we got to see Star Wars get destroyed.
I said the same thing about episode 8 and 9 of the actual movies, but here we are.
Now we're prequel. Yeah.
Let's just stay in the time of the Clone Wars and Bad Batch. Nothing else.
All right, guys. So I'm gonna cut this up, edit it up, put it on YouTube in the next couple days, and then we'll do episode 2. All right.
Sounds good.
All right, guys. May the Force be with you.